it's not just the what needs to be changed, it's the why is dysfunction occurring and how do we resolve from the root.
So when we're talking, like, let's talk about our common treatment for anxiety, right? Like what would we as prescribers, what were we trained to write when we have someone with anxiety? It's the SSRI. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about that.
And the new kid on the block, the SSRNIs. Yes.
SSRNIs, right? Let's just add them all in there, right? Let's
Yes,
talk about what that is and what that means. And
sure. So, in allopathic or conventional medicine, we start right at neurotransmitters as the focus of anxiety. So, and that's really, I think, what's important for viewers and listeners to understand is the difference of how we approach a client or a case. When you're looking at it with functional integrated medicine, it's not just the what needs to be changed. It's the why is dysfunction occurring and how do we resolve from the root. So rather than just starting with, which I do work with neurotransmitters and neurotransmitter testing, but rather than starting with something that works on a receptor level and a feedback mechanism, I think it's first important to understand, is that individual deficient in this X, Y, or Z neurotransmitter? Are they excess in a different neurotransmitter? So we can be strategic in if we have to harness and lower something, like if someone's high epinephrine, I'm going to drive with L-theanine and I'm going to drive with nervine herbs. And I'm going to work with potentially considering a stool test to look if we have to do a gut cleanse, because we might need to plow their gut biome to reseed the good. And that's why, unfortunately, when we work blind with a prescription and we just are throwing Zoloft and Cymbalta and these different medications without even looking why, we're just using symptoms to prescribe medications, we might be throwing a dart at completely the wrong target. And that's unfortunately why we don't get the best outcomes. I mean, we see in research from the 1940s, we don't have any improvement in treatment of anxiety and depression. And all of these new drugs keep being developed, but they're missing the mark is truly what I feel.
yeah, they're not addressing the underlying root cause. And when you talk about like plowing the field, it's, for example, treating SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth, because it's really important to understand we're not going to throw more. We've really got to cleanse the system. And so how did our keto approach, I got my keto green or keto alkaline approach, how did you start using that in the work with anxiety as well?
So two parts. So yes, totally. Bad bacteria or dysbiotic bacteria, whether it's candidiasis, like yeast overgrowth and its varied strains, or whether it's SIBO, or whether it's a dysbiotic bug in the large intestine, all of these bad bacteria strains and yeast strains feed off of sugar. And we've seen this in elementary science classes, or even if you've ever baked bread, how do you activate yeast? You add sugar and water and it goes crazy. And so we know that dysbiotic flora thrive in sugar. And so when you reduce your sugar intake in the diet, and then you take it a step further to actually reduce carbohydrate intake in the diet, my gut cleanses are at 60 grams of carbs or less. So that individual may or may not be ketogenic, but they're going to be low carbohydrate, they're going to be yeast free, and they're going to be very limited on their use of vinegar and prebiotic fibers and probiotics in the beginning, so that we can kind of create that sterilizing and plowing with strategic antifungal and antibacterial natural agents. And then, so that's one thing, is not feeding the beast, if you will. And then really the actual production of ketone bodies themselves have such magnificent function on the brain. And, so back from what we've researched with the influence of epilepsy and them being able to reduce excitatory nerve impulse and activity that drives seizure, ketones can actually help to sit on the brain receptors and give us a very grounded, mood stabilizing influence. And then if we have weight to lose and we're using fat as fuel, that can help with our sexual hormone balance as well. So there's so many factors on how keto can help, because even if we're dealing with estrogen dominance, we know that low progesterone drives anxiety. And so there's just so many pieces. And I think personally, when I am in a ketogenic state, which is how I live, I just feel really even keeled and less erratic, and I sleep better, and my thought process is much more clear. I'm on a high octane fuel is how I describe it to people.
That's a good example. So with that, what is a day in your nutritional life?
Me personally, like what did I eat
Yeah.
yesterday? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, now I have to work my memory muscles. So I usually, when I'm in clinic, I eat, and so I see patients 3 to 4 days a week, and so I'm still seeing about 20 clients a week, and I do this work all virtually, but I like to eat in bookends, and so for me, what that means is that I like to eat most of my calories in the morning and in the evening, and I think it's predominantly because when I'm under high stress and I'm rocking and rolling during the day, I know my digestive enzymes are suppressed and food doesn't sit very well in my belly in the middle of the day. So I do a really kind of funky fasting model where I'll eat like 2 to 3 eggs, half an avocado, maybe some kale chips with that or some kimchi on the side, and probably also some other protein like some pasture-raised bacon or a sausage or something like that. And that's my breakfast. And I drink lemon water prior to that. And then at around 10 a.m., I'll do like maybe a little bit of fat in matcha or cold brew coffee. And if I do coffee, I like to add CBD to my coffee to help with that excitatory output of the caffeine. Matcha, I find I don't need to, so I use just coconut oil or ghee. And then midday, I may also do like a smoothie of sorts or something light. I might just eat frozen macadamia nuts or a fat bomb pack. And then dinner is going to be another like 700, 800 calories where I'm going to do, like last night was a grass-fed burger patty. I had more avocado, roasted Brussels sprouts, and curry roasted cauliflower.
Sounds delicious. Sounds delicious. And I think that's key, what you just outlined, and so helpful. I love to ask clients that and my guests, because you know how you've learned to work with your body and your stress level, right? A Sunday might be a little different.
Yes.
So during this work day, how you're accommodating your keto, you know, getting into ketosis, knowing that you need that high brain function to
Mm-hmm.
sustain you, and also know where you need additional support to sustain you. So I think
Yes,
it's really cool. Are you a rapid caffeine metabolizer? Is that why the caffeine in the coffee sometimes
I
excites you?
am.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
me, no, not at all. So no worries there. But I love how you figured that out. And I think this is the tweaking that our guests, our listeners will appreciate as you learn, right? You continue to learn and find out what works for you. And
Right.
as you are able to lift off the cloud, right? The carbohydrate cloud, or the glucose or brain fog cloud, you're liberated from that. You have the better ability to discern what is working for you versus what is working
Yes.
against you. So, Allie, yeah,
Yes.
thank you. I put you on the spot there. I didn't tell you that I was going to
No,
ask that.
no.
So,
And the
thank you for
weekends I
sharing that.
do, in the weekends I do a classic 16/8, and I do my fatty coffee, and I take my daughter to the farmer's market, and that works really well because then we break fast at noon and have a beautiful brunch from what we picked up from the market, and that's great. But I think that's a great point you make. You know, I always say one of my mantras is doctrine creates disconnect. And so you go into any new program, any new plan with rules and guidelines, and you start to feel better, which is wonderful because going from terrible to mediocre isn't a very big change. But once you get to feeling awesome, then you can start to tweak the mediocre, and then you can get into the kind of thrive high gear zone. And like you said, that's that individualized approach of, okay, I realize when I'm stressed, a kale salad and salmon doesn't sit well with me. And so I can't be munching on that between clients because I'm not going to appropriately chew and I'm not going to appropriately break things down.
I think that's beautifully well said. I love that. I love that you said that. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel here and get those notifications, and comment below. Let me know your thoughts, what you loved, and what your action step is.